Welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Shively, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and I'm on a 1 million pound mission. I've personally lost over 100 pounds. I've helped my hometown lose over 35,000 pounds, and now I'm on a mission to produce over 1 million pounds of results by helping you gain clarity about what you need to do to reach your goals and give you the confidence to take action. And my friends, the perfect time to start taking action is now. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and this is episode number 196, Maximizing Your Mind and Body with Chris DiVecchio. Now, I am fired up about this one. Chris absolutely rocks it, and I think this is going to get you guys fired up. Speaking of getting fired up, hang out after the episode and learn a little bit more about the Million Pound Mission Bootcamp. This is the last week to sign up. Thursday is the deadline, so stay tuned after the show for more info on that. Now, do you guys ever feel like you just can't find that spark that's going to get your butt up off the couch and into action so that you can actually achieve those goals? Like we're wrapping up 2018, heading into 2019. This is the time of the year that we need to start thinking about goals and leveling up a little bit and leveling up our mindset and our action towards those goals. So this week, I've got a guest that is going to help you find that spark and get full on fired up about what you're going to be able to achieve. Now, Chris DiVecchio, this dude specializes in teaching us simple techniques and strategies to help others achieve both physical and mental acuity. Now, as a fitness trainer and lifestyle specialist, Chris has a knack for inspiring accountability and achieving results quickly. Now, speaking of achieving results quickly, in this episode, Chris and I talk about the crazy story about how he helped one of his clients win $1 million. Again, $1 million. An amazing transformation story there. We talk about some of the things that he thinks people are consistently either misinformed about or confused about as they attempt to get healthy. We discuss his 5x2 method, which I feel is just revolutionary. Like, I've never heard anybody talk about getting healthy in this way. So the 5x2 method will be a game changer for you guys. I want you to pay close attention during that part of the interview. And then we close up with his advice about what he would say to somebody that's just feeling a little bit nervous about getting started on their health journey. You guys are going to love this episode. Chris is a great guy. We became friends quickly. This isn't the last you've heard of myself and Chris. And I just think you're going to get a lot out of this episode. It was the one I specifically chose to close out 2018 with and get you prepped for 2019. So let's jump right into episode number 196. Maximizing Your Mind and Body with Chris DiVecchio. Chris, welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm good, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm fired up. We were introduced by a mutual friend, Rob Dione of the Open Sky Fitness Podcast, and you've promised that your interview here will be like 10 times as good as that one. So we've got a high bar to reach, my friend.
Yeah, we don't want to let Rob know that, but it's gonna get. We're gonna crush it.
We're gonna crush it. You are somebody that's achieved a lot in the fitness space. You've helped a lot of people achieve a lot. I want to start back at the beginning because I know anybody that becomes a leader in this space, there's a story. There's like a why behind all of this. So take us back to that initial moment when you realized that health and fitness was your passion. That's something that you wanted to help other people learn about.
Yeah, absolutely. So my athletic background began at 5 years old. I started playing hockey. I put on the double blades and learned how to skate on a frozen over farm right down the street from my house. And my career led up to a Division I college hockey career. But going into my freshman year of college, I was always kind of a small, quick, wiry kid, about 175 pounds, 5'11", and when you start playing college coming out of high school, you've gone from playing against 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids to now you're playing against grown men. And so the level of the game changes. And after my first year, I had a great year, but I got knocked around quite a bit. My coach had really encouraged me to go home. and hit the weights that summer. And by encourage me, he basically said if I didn't come back with some size, that I might not be playing. So that was all the encouragement I needed at
Yeah.
the time. So that was really my first. At that time, I was 19 years old, and that was my first venture into really, truly exploring fitness. But it was for a purpose. So I spent 3 months pounding the weights, pounding food, and first time ever even taking supplements. This was back when EAS first came out. Bill Phillips came out with like his whole line of creatine and glutamine and vanadyl sulfate, and so I spent a lot of time just exploring it and kind of guinea pigging things on my own and doing my own research, and in 3 months put on 30 pounds. So I came back having fulfilled my promise to the coach, but playing the game at 30 pounds heavier was a lot different. And so things started to change for me a bit. And towards my junior year, I started to fall out of love with hockey and really was just fascinated with the whole idea that I'm able to manipulate and change my body the way I look and feel simply through nutrition and exercise. And it's 100% in my control. I didn't have to rely on a coach. I didn't have to rely on a team. It was all up to me. And so I decided to walk away from hockey, and I tried my hand at bodybuilding and competing. So I had a small little run in the amateur bodybuilding circuit in Musclemania, and I competed on and off for 3 years, and through that I came about a small little fitness modeling run that I was going back and forth to New York for, and then things kind of phased out there. I moved back to Boston, where I'm originally from, and got into a high-tech sales job, but wasn't very happy there. And I was still exploring the modeling and acting world, and ended up finding a path out to Los Angeles. And in 2002, moved out to LA to pursue an acting and modeling career, and had 12 years of an up and down career. So now staying in shape and health and fitness wasn't necessarily for a sport or competing. It was now for certain roles that I was trying to get ready for, certain roles that I saw myself as, and so I had to stay ready for. And so staying in shape was part of the requirement for, a leading man role at that time, and still I think to this day is. But so things shifted, and I had to learn how to train my body differently, because coming out from a bodybuilding career in 2002, I was still carrying a lot of size. Like a competitive bodybuilder, but that doesn't really bode well for somebody who's trying to make it on screen in TV and film. And so I had to learn how to train my body and change my diet and manipulate my body to get my body to lose muscle mass and still keep that size, but stay lean, but not big and bulky. And so I literally took a whole year off of training and just did a bunch of body weight training. A lot of cardio work, and was able to successfully bring my body back down to what would be considered a respectable size for what they would want in TV and film. But like I said, 12 years kind of up and down in between. I was bartending and still training people on the side. And towards the end of my acting career, I just started to, the writing was on the wall. Opportunities weren't coming as much. And I saw that my training business was starting to pick up. And part of the reason why I was picking up is because I had a different niche and approach to my programs. A lot of my I took a $1,500 loan out from a buddy of mine, and I lived in a 250 square foot apartment, no joke, off the
Wow.
one block off the ocean in Manhattan Beach. But in the back of this house that I lived in, there was 100 square feet of space, and I asked the landlord permission to build this little outdoor structure. So I went to Home Depot with that $1,500 that I got from a buddy of mine, and I bought 4x4, I bought plumbing pipe, I bought electrical conduit, and I built dip bars and a pull-up bar, and I built this huge structure that I nicknamed the Cage. It became this like space that like people were excited to come and train. It's outdoor, it's off the beach. I take them down on the sand, and I kind of bootstrapped this whole facility together, because the crux of what I was doing was really the way I would design my programs and the work that I was doing from a lifestyle perspective with these clients. And so I was kind of proving the theory that you didn't need a $150 gym membership to Equinox to get in shape and take care of yourself. Let the health and wellness journey begin by starting from the inside out. And so very quickly, one client after another, the business started to ramp up. And then in 2016, I ended up getting introduced to this high-stake poker player, And turns out that he had placed a bet for $1.2 million, which was backed by Dan Bilzerian, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but big, social media influencer,
Right.
pretty well known. And the bet was for him to get from 33% body fat to below 10% body fat in 6 months. And so he and I negotiated a deal, and off we went. And within 6 months, I got him down to 8.8% body fat. We won the bet and got a lot of press in the New York Post. We got a story. Then it hit Good Morning America. We did a segment there, and this thing just went viral globally. And then from there, I was working with clients remotely all over the world, in China and Europe, all over the United States. And the thing that I loved so much about that bet was that initially it was about the money for this guy. But I made sure, and I knew going into this, that regardless of how much work and effort it was going to have to be on a physical standpoint, I was not going to deviate from what I do with all of my clients, which is really focus on the inner work as well. And so because of that, when we were getting down to the wire, this was not a shoo-in. I mean, we barely got in there at 8.8%. He lost quite a bit on the last couple weeks, but there were many points where we weren't sure we were going to get that. But he had said to me, about a few weeks out, that regardless of whether or not he wins the money, he already felt like he was a millionaire genuinely because of the lifestyle change that has come about because of the time that we spent together and the work that we've done. It was much bigger than just coming to the gym and working out. I always talk to my clients about how, the 1 hour that you spend in the gym is important, but the 23 hours that you spend outside of the gym is far more important.
Right.
That's where your focus really should be. And so he took that seriously. We talked about doing an audit on the people that he was surrounding himself with. And we talked a lot about, stress management skills. And we talked a lot about, time management. And we talked a lot about rest and recovery and just things that you're doing that wouldn't necessarily seem so obvious to people and how they apply to their health and wellness. But he took that very seriously and saw a huge change in his relationships and just the world around him outside of seeing this massive physical transformation. And so that was really a big win for me on more levels than just the $1.2 million.
Right. So one of the things that I feel like is the hardest to do in the fitness industry itself is us as fitness professionals, like, we need to be in shape. We need to lead by example. But I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are in the category of, look at me, be like me, but they don't show that they can produce results for somebody else. And you've successfully made that transition of, yes, I'm in shape, I'm healthy, but I can take that and I can teach other people how to do that as well. And that is just, I feel like there's a huge gap between type A, type B, where you're able to transition that knowledge over. So what do you think, like with this client that you helped win $1 million, like you were able to help him learn things that helped him improve his life? Because if he's not on board, if he's not learning anything, those results don't happen, So what do you think some of the keys are there?
Look, I think a big part of how I'm able to get in there with my clients, I think, is this: they see my level of commitment and my level of conviction and my level of passion for what I do. I don't think that anyone would ever argue that there's no doubt that I walk the talk, that I'm a full representation of everything that I coach and talk on and preach about and try to educate my clients on are things that I have done myself or are still doing myself to this day. So there's no delineation there or questioning of, hey, this guy's just telling me, but look at him. What's he doing? What's his life look like? And so I think what that does is that builds a really high level of trust with my clients. And when my clients see me fighting really, really hard for them, arguably almost harder than they're fighting for themselves, it starts to set a little bit of a competitive landscape to where they have that questioning going on, saying, man, this guy is fighting for me. He's working harder for me and believes more in me than I believe in myself. That's kind of messed up. Like, I should be thinking that way about myself. I should be feeling that same level of commitment and desire. Like, why wouldn't I? And I think oftentimes people feel that way about themselves just because they feel hopeless. They don't have the information. They don't have the right support. They don't have the right focus on goals and objectives. And so really what I like to do in the very beginning of my program is peel back the layers and get down to clearly identifying goals, doing a very, very deep dive audit on your lives in terms of like what's working and what's not working for you right now, not just from a fitness perspective, but in an overall life perspective. Because one of the things I talk about is how we do one thing is oftentimes how we do everything, And an example that I use with my clients is I'll set up and build a high intensity interval training cardio program for them. And so that requires, as you know, there's an interval change of high level sprints and then recovery back and forth. So you're swapping that back and forth. And so I'll go a few weeks and just kind of check in and see how they're doing. And when I ask them, what they're hitting on their sprints, they might come back and say, I'm sprinting at like 6 or 7. So I'll throw them up on the treadmill and I'm watching them sprint at a 6 or a 7. And it literally looks like they're jogging down the beach, like checking out babes. It's like we could probably have a 30-minute conversation and they're not even out of breath. So to me, I'm like, in their mind, they think they're working their asses off on that high level sprint. And really it's like, you haven't even come close to pushing yourself. So I'll just kind of quietly reach down and start tapping the button to increase the speed and just watch them slowly like turn their eyes away from me and look straight and focus, because now they know they're about ready to fall off this treadmill if they don't pay attention. And I'll take them up from a 7 to a 10 and have them bust out a 30-second sprint, hit stop, and let them finally catch their breath and ask them, so do you really think you were pushing yourself and working hard? And of course, we know the obvious answer is going to be. And then the next question is, where else aren't you pushing yourself in your life? Where oftentimes it's relationship, it's career, it's, relationships with their children, personal goals, and it just shows up everywhere. And so by taking the time to really dig in and kind of peel back the layers and put a spotlight on the bigger picture for them, I think that helps to set the stage for a very ambitious pursuit that makes them almost feel guilty if they weren't fully committed.
Right.
So I find different ways to raise the stakes for these people, because oftentimes their stakes are just way too low. And it's usually based around vanity, which to me, if vanity was a high enough stake, then everybody'd be walking around at 5% body fat with a six pack, but
Right.
It's just not. Everybody talks about wanting to be in great shape, but how many people actually are? How many people are willing to do all the work and pay all the, be mindful enough to think about nutrition and be mindful enough to think about, self-care, like rest and recovery, soft tissue work, things like Epsom salt baths and just things that like help to take care of the total package, So
Yeah.
So that's kind of my approach that I take, when I'm working with individuals.
Yeah, I love how you take that holistic. You view the whole person, their whole lifestyle, instead of let's just think about nutrition or let's just think about your biceps curls or whatever. So, but I know from experience that when you do that, when you look at the lifestyle, when you look at the whole person, that requires them opening up. That, and a lot of times, people can start to fight that a little bit. They may even project some of their negativity back at you. So, what frustrates you? Because I know there have to be a few frustrating moments when you're kind of battling it out for the trust of that person to fully engage and fully give up control to you as a coach. So what kind of frustration points do you deal with?
I think sometimes people, it doesn't happen often. The reason being is that I'm very selective about people I work with, because I have a good sense, I think, of who is willing to be open and who isn't. And a big portion of my clients that I work with come out of like a referral base versus, we don't market and advertise a whole lot. I'm more interested in people who are ready and willing and are coming to me, as opposed to me just trying to push this onto somebody. Because if they're not ready, then it becomes a full on battle, like what you're talking about.
Right.
But, I still do have on occasion, there's clients who will come in and, they think they know better, and because they read somewhere in a magazine, or it's the latest trend that they're seeing on social media, or it's something that they may have tried in the past and it worked for them short term, but certainly not long term. Otherwise they wouldn't be working with me and sitting with me at that time.
Right.
And so the biggest frustration is when I'm fighting really, really hard, like I always do for a client, and giving them the attention. I'm checking in, I'm following up, I'm asking all of the questions because I care so much. And then in their minds, they're not really subscribing. There's some sort of lack of trust that's going on to where they don't have faith in the program or the process, and they are just so hyper focused on doing it their way that, I will tell people when I've gotten to that point, hey, listen, like I'm fighting for you really, really hard. There's nothing in this for me other than for you to look and feel your absolute best when we're done with this program. And if you're going to continue to keep resisting me, then I'm going to stop fighting. And I'm just going to I'm going to just ebb and flow with you and let you roll however you want to roll. Because for me, I'll give people a rope, and you're either going to build something, you're going to build a bridge with it, or you're going to hang yourself with it. So, if we're working together, great, let's build something great. If not, then I'm going to kind of let you go and see what you do with it. And, sometimes people have to learn lessons the hard way. I prefer them not to. And that's what a lot of my fight is all about. But sometimes people have to learn the hard way, and that's really the difference between the proactive and the reactive approach. I think as human nature, it's common and natural for us to be more reactive to things. Most people often don't do anything about their health until they've been sitting in the doctor's office with that 10 seconds of silence where the doctor was trying to figure out a way to let them know that it's not looking too good.
Right.
And now you have to do something about it. Oh, okay, I'll go get a gym membership, and okay, now I'll pay attention to my food. And it's like, I want to avoid that moment. I don't want people to have to feel that or go through that. It's just because sometimes it's too late. And so really what I try to encourage people is to get in front of that, and almost, if you can't find that real true proactive nature and desire and raise that stake, then create a false stake. I don't know what and so I'll work to create some sort of false stake, but just imagine what it could be like for you down the line if you don't take care of yourself now and try to mitigate any type of issues that might come about. But sometimes learning the hard way is the only way some people can learn. And so when it gets to that point where they're fighting and pushing back too hard, it's hard for me. It's not an easy decision, but there's times where I have to just simply let go and just let it flow how it goes. And, sometimes they figure it out and they loop back around. And other times, it becomes a disastrous trend for them for a little bit longer until eventually I'm sure it will turn around for them at some point. But I'd say that's probably the most challenging thing that I face with clients working.
Yeah. So do you still take that pretty hard? Like I know myself, if I have somebody that kind of checks out on me, they regain weight and things like that, like I can't get over it. I can't just be okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So does that still hit you?
Because it's less about me blaming them. And I go to the place just like you probably do, where I'm like, what didn't I do well enough to help build that trust to where they wanted to come over? Do you know what I mean? Like, I look at it as like I did something wrong, or maybe I missed the ball. Maybe there was something in there that kind of turned me off somewhere that I might have checked out a little bit too early. And I'm always reflective like that. I mean, I'm never somebody who gives up typically early, but I've always got to ask those questions. And it certainly makes me feel that way, because if somebody doesn't succeed, that's on me, in my opinion, oftentimes. And I feel like I to some degree I let them down, and I'm not okay with that. So, I find ways to kind of make peace and learn from it and move forward. But I certainly do take that hard when that happens, because, I pride myself on being able to, help everybody who comes through my door.
Yeah, and you're in it for impact, and we're in the same. We're cut from the same cloth there, Chris, because it's so easy in the fitness industry just to take a paycheck and be like, hey, you're doing great. You look great, gal. It's time for that to renew your sessions. We see a lot of that.
Totally.
And to be willing to kind of draw that line in the sand and saying, hey, client, I need you to meet me at this level, or this may not work out. So I know where you're coming from there. Now, I know one of the things that you're passionate about is time management, efficiency with time. That's something that you help people out with. And I wanted to pick your brain a little bit in that area, especially here today. So what would you say to somebody that comes to you and they're like, listen, I want to get healthy. I need some help, but I just don't have time. I just don't have time to get healthy, to eat healthy, to go grocery shopping, to meal prep, to do hour-long workouts. Like, where do you start that person off at?
Yeah. I mean, that conversation would begin with, hey, listen, it's 2018. Like, we are loaded with resources and ways to figure out and problem solve. We've got the internet that can allow you to, if you didn't have me, you could jump online and tap it and type in time management resources or time management skills, or type in meal plan services, or there's just all sorts of ways to figure out and problem solve solutions around I don't have enough time. But oftentimes it comes down to people not doing a clear audit on their daily lives to figure out where they're adding value with the things that they're doing on a day-to-day basis and where they're not adding value, and being able to be honest with themselves to break down that schedule. So I do spend a lot of time with clients to do a true audit, and let's break it down from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. I want to know exactly what you're doing, and then I'm going to dig in and help build and design a program that shows them how they can integrate something into their existing lifestyle, where there may be some things you're going to have to take out, there may be some things you're going to have to add in, there may be some things you're going to have to substitute, but absolutely no question about it, there will be a way to figure out how to start taking better care of yourself, with time not being the excuse. I tell people all the time, like, you eat all day long. So,
Right.
so you can't tell me in 2018 that you can't figure out a way to make a better choice with the food that you're going to put in your mouth anyways. It's not like you're not eating, you're eating anyways. So it's either McDonald's or you go somewhere healthier. I mean, even if I went to McDonald's, I could still choose a chicken salad if I wanted to.
Yep.
Is it the best chicken salad? No, but it's better than getting a Big Mac and French fries. I could go to Carl's Jr. and get a turkey burger lettuce wrap. That's better than getting a famous star with a fry and a soda. I mean, there's ways to make better choices in the things that you're doing. So time management really, to me, is really about doing an honest audit and taking a look at what's going on in your lifestyle that's adding value and what's not adding value, and then looking for ways to substitute and displace so that you can start moving towards your goals. But time not having enough time really, to me, is an umbrella excuse for something deeper. It just becomes, it's very rarely do I have anybody that I work with that really truly doesn't have enough time to start taking better care of themselves. They may not have enough time to come and work out with me on a one-on-one program. So in that case, I design remote programs for clients to where, hey, listen, I know your time is tight. You can't afford to spend the 20-minute drive over here, an hour training, 20 minutes of showering, cleaning up, and getting back to work. That's a lot of time. I get that. But if I gave you a program that as soon as you wake up in the morning incorporates 10 minutes of stretching, 20 minutes of body weight work that you can do with core, and then I design a meal plan that gives you good substitutions and options for foods when you're just out in the world doing whatever you're doing. There's absolutely no way that you can't tell me that you're going to get some sort of better result than what you're already getting. It's just you have to care enough to make a little bit more effort to pay attention to those things and push yourself just a little bit more, because it's either hard thing now or it's going to be harder thing later. It
Right.
never gets any easier. So, that's really what it comes down to for me. But the time one is kind of it's a tough excuse for me to accept when I hear that. It's like a no, you can't win that battle with me.
That's what it sounds like. So when you do that audit with people and you dig a little bit deeper, where are you finding the biggest misuses of time? That is there a trend that pops up, or is it kind of all over the place?
It's the nighttime is the biggest waste of time. I think people, everybody's got a busy day of work during, and no one's exempt from that. But, I'll just speak for myself first, in that when I come home at the end of my day, I look at it as an opportunity and time to unwind and try to shake off the stress, try to shake off the tension, try to shake off whatever it is that I picked up and consumed that day. Because I'm working with clients all day long. I'm taking on energy.
Right.
I'm trying to dump energy, and sometimes I don't get it all. Like there's not that even exchange. So sometimes I'm left at the end of my days a little heavy. Now it's easy for me to go home and turn on the TV and get, and brain dump into a mindless reality TV show, or, watch the news and just get massively depressed of what's going on in the world.
Right.
Right. But, when I go home, I'm very intentional with the things that I do. And these are the things that I talk about as ways to encourage my clients, because I've seen the benefits myself. This isn't about me saying, hey, I'm perfect, follow my lead, I don't make any mistakes, or I don't ever watch junk TV. But I'll make time for the things that are important to me first. And then if there's time left over, then I'll do other things that, we might be able to consider that don't add value to my life necessarily. It's just kind of mindless and brain dumping, which I think there should be a balance of that too, right? You don't have to always be on. But when I come home at the end of my day, I do things like turn down the lights nice and low so that it's working with the circadian cycle of bringing down the serotonin levels. There's certain music that I listen to that like helps bring my energy down. There's incense and smells that I like, with essential oils that I have popping as soon as I walk through the door. I get on my foam roller and softball, and I go right into like a stretching routine, and there's just things that I do that are very, very specific to drive the wellness component from the inside out down, because that's important to my overall function. And so I'm making really good use of that nighttime, as opposed to making an excuse to, I had a hard day, I'm going to the bar to get a drink, or I'm having wine and I gotta, and I'm gonna sit down and watch Kardashians all night long because my day was so crazy. It's like, it's just kind of lazy. It's a lazy use of time, in my opinion. And so those are areas where I really encourage my friends and my clients, look, if you are going to do that and you're having a hard time pulling away from some of those activities, fine, watch your reality shows while you're on the foam roller.
Yeah.
And the lights are low and the incense is burning. Pay attention to these things and make use of the time, because you can multitask. I've seen people on Instagram and on their cell phones talking at the same time. So it's like, you can multitask there. Why can't you do the same thing with taking care of yourself? You know what I mean? It's like you can do it all in other areas. So, try to incorporate some of that positive use of time there at nighttime as well,
That's hilarious. What are your rules when you're working with somebody? Are they allowed to get on their phones at all? I'm just curious, because I used to really be a hard ass about this. Because I would have people like doing like, ab exercises. They're like holding medicine balls and they're trying to text at the same time that they're like moving. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And now with the Apple Watches,
amazing.
like I had a lady doing burpees, like hauling ass doing burpees, and she's yelling at her wrist and she's trying to call her kid at the same time. So what's your opinion on during a session? Do you allow any of that kind of mess to happen?
That's amazing, dude. I love that burpee story. I'll allow my clients to bring their phones out on the floor. I have a lot of clients that are, they're busy executives. They're coming in middle of the afternoon. So, so therefore they are making time, and they're figuring out a way to kind of manage their time. And that doesn't mean that the responsibilities fall by the wayside, even though it's only an hour. Things can happen inside that hour. I understand that. I'm reasonable when it comes to that. I definitely wouldn't let somebody be using their phone during like an actual set while they're working out. But, I'm a little flexible when it comes to them working on their phone or checking a text message, or if they have to make a call, it's important in between a set or whatnot. Very rarely has it gotten out of control. But if I find that it's interfering, I just kind of use my judgment. But I'm not too hard, I try not to. I put a lot of different tools and protocols into my program that really kind of eliminate me having to be too much of a hard ass, because I do photos with my clients every 2 weeks, right? I do progress photos. So at the end of those 2 weeks, whether you've been on point or not, we're taking photos. And when we look at those photos, that does all of the checking for me. That's that's your chin check right there. I mean, if we're not seeing progress, we typically know whose responsibility that is, and it's oftentimes not mine.
Exactly.
Whether you've been dipping your hands into the sweet potato fries too often, or you've been skipping a cardio session, or, you're spending more time on your phone on the treadmill when you're not with me on the days off, that's on them. But very quickly it will reveal itself if those are becoming roadblocks in our process.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed as you talked about your routine when you come home, you seem to incorporate the different senses. And I know that's something that you talk about with your 5x2 method. So can you explain what the 5x2 is and how that can be beneficial to think in those terms?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had this concept. It was kind of like an aha moment a few years ago. And, I was at the time, are you familiar with the 5-minute journal?
Oh, yeah.
So I was writing in the 5-minute journal, and I had been on a trend for a few weeks. And, the last question at the end of your day is what could have made your day better?
Yep.
And after I'd been writing for a few weeks, I went back to kind of see what patterns I could identify. And I kept writing in that answer. I kept writing nothing. Today was great. Today was great. It was awesome. And that's not to say that my life is perfect. By no stretch is it. But my days were feeling really, really complete. My clients were all doing well. I have a roof over my head. I got food in my fridge. I've got a successful business, and, I'm happy. I'm healthy. I've got all four, all of my limbs, and, everything is functioning. So to me, it was like, all right, I mean, I guess if I won the lottery, that could have made my day better, but it's not, I'm trying to keep it realistic in my answers there. Right. So then I wanted to try to figure out what was, what else was making my days complete. At the time that I was writing this at nighttime, I was in the process of wearing my slippers. My essential oils were jamming. I was sipping my bamboo tea. I had some ambient music going on, and here I am, like, reading these quotes inside the 5-minute journal, and I'm like, man, I got this little, like, 5 sensory thing going on, man. That's like, it just keeps me in a good space. I'm feeling happy. I'm positive. I'm like, dude, my day is great. I'm like, I'm in gratitude. Two things can't occupy the same space at the same time. So if you're in gratitude, then you're not in, you're not negative, and you're not upset and angry or feeling lack of, right? It's one or the other. And so I then started to think about what I do in the mornings to set my days off, and my mornings were starting off almost very the same way. So I wake up in the morning, I put my slippers on first thing, that's my touch. I go downstairs, I grind my coffee beans, and before I pour my coffee beans into the machine, I would take a few seconds and just really, like, breathe them in and breathe in the aromas, because who doesn't love the smell of coffee, even if you hate the flavor? The smell of coffee is amazing.
Right.
And then I would turn on a Gary Vaynerchuk podcast. I'm reading a quote from this website that I subscribe to, a positive quote that kind of helps kick off my day. And then I'm drinking my coffee. So in the first 20 minutes of my day, I'm kicking off on a positive trajectory, having tapped into all 5 senses that create positive feedback loops. So I then started to do a little bit of research, to get some science-based research behind this, because I knew there had to be. And sure enough, the things that I was proposing and thinking of were all backed by scientific research for all 5 of these senses in terms of what they do by creating a positive feedback loop. So I knew I had something here, and it was something that I determined that you hit your 5 senses at what I consider to be the 2 most crucial points of your day, first thing in the morning and then last thing at night. What a way to bookend your day and create that constant charge positive feedback loop, because you start your day off great, and then at nighttime you're setting your subconscious, because the brain is still processing and thinking and feeling and working even when you're sleeping. So, you could very easily be falling asleep to Dateline and have some crazy nightmare, bizarre dreams, because that's what's gone on in your brain last thing you've done before you go to sleep. But if that's the case, why not take control of that and be very specific and intentional and set the framework for your brain to work overnight positively, so that when you wake up, you come out positive, and then you take it even higher with your morning routine. And so within, I'd say I'd had this idea kind of churning for about a year or so, and I met my now fiance, and I was telling her, I was kind of bragging about this book that I had. And sure enough, the more we started talking about it, she's like, you don't have a book, you just have an idea. I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. She's like, you need,
Nice.
That's one of the things I love about her, man.
Yeah.
She calls me out.
Just crushes you.
But
Yep.
but I needed that, though. I mean, talk about accountability. She was like, what's up, man? You're like, you got this book you're talking about. I got this book. You don't have a book. Write the book. And so literally within 3 months, the two of us came together, and we pulled this book together in 3 months, and we ended up self-publishing on Amazon. We released the book, and man, it's been great just to be able to share this concept and technique because it's super easy. It costs absolutely no money. It's absolutely impossible to do it wrong because it's so individual. And so in the book, we talk about the different senses and all the science-based research behind it. And I share a lot about my stories and my journey through developing the 5x2. But in the back of the book, there's like 10 pages of workbook that teach you how to build and design your own 5x2s. And then you can play around with different combinations to see what works best for you, what has more power. And what's been really cool about the feedback we're getting, and this has been the trend, is that when people are reading this book, they're having their own aha moment going, gosh, like I've already been doing some version of the 5x2. I just didn't realize I do it. Like I go to Starbucks every morning because I'm now realizing like how much I just love walking in that shop and seeing all the people and feeling the energy and smelling the coffee and tasting the coffee and the music that they have playing. And it's just like, so people have reasons why they're already doing certain things. And so this book really just makes you more conscious and aware. But by doing that, it amplifies the experiences that you're having to heighten that positive feedback loop for you. So it's a really cool, simple technique that I think has the benefits of really shifting people and changing their lives on a simplistic level that can be done by anybody. I have a lot of clients, kids who are using the 5x2 method.
Wow.
And showing a lot of positive results. So.
No, I think just like you said, like people are doing their own version of this, but now that we really know the full spectrum and we can implement it and be intentional about it. And that makes all the difference is we're not going through the motions anymore. We're being intentional and that'll ramp up the results. So we've talked about the 5x2. We've talked about time management. I know those are a few things that you're fired up about right now. What else there's so much out there in health and fitness, like people can get lost, right? So what else is out there that you're really fired up about right now that you really believe in? Maybe it's a certain nutritional protocol or a specific type of a workout or a supplement. I know that you're very knowledgeable about supplementation. So what else is out there that you are just like, this is a home run? People should be looking at this and that you're fired up about.
Two things I'm really fired up about, stress management and inflammation. Those are two things that I'm adamantly passionate about. And, I incorporate, there's a few supplements that I incorporate in my program that help to manage cortisol, but not just relying on a supplement for that, but really trying to encourage people in certain techniques that they can intentionally engage in to help reduce the stress levels and the cortisol levels. So, I am religious sometimes I get 3, but religious with 2 times a week, I'm doing an Epsom salt bath. When I get home after work at night, I do a 30-minute bath. I've got candles all over the bathroom. I've got music playing. And then I get out of that 30-minute bath and I'm doing a 20-minute cold shower to rinse down. So part of that is to help reduce and manage the stress. It's also to help reduce and manage inflammation in my body and my joints. I'm 42 years old. I've been pounding weights for 20 plus years. My body feels it, there's no way around it. So managing that recovery and managing those stress levels with very intentional techniques, as we mentioned, I incorporate the 5x2 on a regular basis. These are things that we can intentionally take control over as opposed to what most people do, which is just give into it. When somebody gets stressed, they just automatically feel as though they need to feel stressed, or they just go along with it and don't try to rein it in or control it. And so learning certain techniques that are very simple, or even just paying attention to the techniques, to me shows a level of self-care that you're not just going to allow yourself to just go with whatever. I think there's go with the flow positively, but there's also go with the flow could be a negative thing too, if you're in terms of what we're talking about, if you're not paying attention to it. So just because you're in a stressful situation doesn't mean you have to allow your mind and your body and your emotions and all your feelings to go there as well. You have the ability, and we are, I like to empower people to let them know that you do have the control and the ability to rein things in. You gotta know what tools and techniques to utilize that can actually support that and help you with that. And so I spend a lot of time with myself and my clients focusing on that, because most people are very, very stressed with work and personal life and what's going on in the world. And, you name it, man, we all have our struggles. Right. So that's something that I really do. I'm really, really, really passionate about, because it's been part of my success path. As I've been through my journey. I've been out here 16 years now in LA, and I've had 12 years in the entertainment industry. We're an industry that said no 99% of the time.
Right.
And living below the poverty line, for the most part. That was my training ground for learning how to control and minimize my stress levels, to where I thought I was going to get a huge break on a huge film, and I'd been in for 2-3 auditions. I've been to producers, and it's down to me and one other guy. I've got $500 in the bank and to my name. And if I land this deal, this picture deal, this is going to change my life. And I don't get it. It's like, man, talk about getting kicked in the, what, it's like, so at in those moments, I had to learn. There was nobody teaching me or coaching me. I had to learn and figure this out on my own. And, living right across the street from the beach, I would find ways to just go down and enjoy the sunset, or just have my feet in the sand, or have my feet in the Pacific Ocean, and just think about how lucky I am to be, to have this kind of lifestyle, regardless of not getting that job, which doesn't define me, and how stressed out I was about not having money. It was like I found other ways to find, richness and gratitude and wealth, with my health and all that. So, but those were tools that I was ambitious about, trying to find ways to not feel so stressed and heavy. So I think, those are some things that I feel passionate about. I think that would really serve for people to pay more attention to. The inflammation piece, it's all begins in the gut, and I've learned a lot about this over the last few years, as, I think there's been a huge trend in the nutrition industry with bone broth and turmeric. And there's so much inside nutrition that controls the way our bodies internally are functioning and processing. When we've got massive inflammation in our intestines, we can't absorb our food and our nutrients as well, which, prevents our bodies from developing and our minds from functioning the way we want it to. And, there's lots of discomfort that goes on. So paying attention to the nutrition aspect, what we're eating, supplements that we can utilize, other just like natural food hacks like bone broth, finding ways to really reduce that overall internal inflammation is something that I also spend a lot of time on. I think provides a huge benefit. I have a lot of clients that come in initially that are distended bellies and just very, very uncomfortable. And you can only imagine, if you're operating on a day-to-day basis with this low frequency of discomfort constantly, it's no wonder sometimes people are agitated, or just, are quick to pop off,
Right.
But you find that I found a pattern in introducing, intermittent fasting, which having people break their fast with bone broth, which is, the first thing that goes into their intestines. So they get those healing properties of the collagen and the glycine to help heal the intestinal tract and reduce the inflammation. That turnover happens really quickly, teaching them to eliminate dairy and other food products that cause inflammation. So that when that transition happens quickly, man, you see this total washover of brightness, like they light up, their skin looks better. Their stomachs are pulled in, their core looks tighter, their posture is better. They walk, talk, and just look completely different. And so the combination of the, managing and paying attention to inflammation with managing and paying attention to stress management, to me, are two things that I think are continually progressive, and I think really are going to be the foundation of a lot of the work that I do with my clients from like the fitness aspect, you know?
Yeah, well, Chris, I mean, you've delivered so much value here. I love your energy, man. I love, you can tell that you're passionate to teach, you're passionate to coach, you want to make it a real impact. And that's something that I just appreciate in the fitness industry. I feel like we need more people like you. So I know that you've got my audience fired up, all right? So how can they connect to you if they want to dig in a little bit deeper on things like 5x2, coaching, all of that? You know, how do they get connected to you?
Yep. Actually, they can head over to my website at www.pmblife.com. That's P as in Peter, M as in Mary, B as in boy, life.com. You can see a bunch of testimonials up there. You can see lots of information about my programs and my approach and some of the things that we've been involved with over the last couple of years. And then over on Instagram and Facebook, it's both Chris DiVecchio, and we share a ton of content on both platforms. There's loads of tips and tricks and just secrets that, you know, I think people aren't really seeing out there. They're kind of blind spots. They're things that are hidden in plain sight, but things that I feel are adding value to myself and to my clients. And so there's lots of information. So if people like to head over there and check it out, feel free to shoot me a DM, or you can email me or reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions and see how I can help contribute to anybody in their journey.
Nice. I'll link those up in the show notes as well. I know we're running short on time, but I love to send my audience out with an action step. So just in the last couple of minutes here, if there's somebody that's listening and you've got them fired up, like they're inspired and they're ready to put that inspiration to action, but they're scared. Like maybe they're kind of looking up at that mountain thinking, I've got 100 pounds to lose, and this is going to probably be the hardest thing I've ever done. What type of advice would you give to that person? Like, what can they do in the next 24 hours just to initiate momentum?
You know, there's a quote that I've always loved, and it's a little cheesy, but there's some truth to it. And I think we come from the same generation, so you'll appreciate this. But in Point Break, there was that quote that fear causes hesitation, and hesitation causes your worst fears to come true. So what I often find is that people they generate a lot of thoughts and ideas about what they think they should be doing, what they know they should be doing, but they get stuck in the mud of those thoughts and fears and feelings and emotions that come up with that. So if you got something going on, if you have a thought in your mind, if you feel like you should be taking better care of yourself, if you feel like you want to try something different and new, get out of the thought process and get into action. Just take that step. You just got to move, because if you don't, you very well could be sitting in that hamster wheel for years, and you'll never get out of the gate, and it may be too late by the time you actually decide to do something. So nobody wants to live with regret. I think it's probably one of the best motivating factors ever. Hopefully people don't have to rely too much on regret to take some initial steps, but get out of the thought process and get into action. It would be my piece of advice.
Awesome, Chris, man. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you adding your energy and your knowledge to the Million Pound Mission. I know that we're delivering high value for the audience here, and they appreciate it as well.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it, Adam.
All right, everybody. Now is your time to get into action, all right? We've been inspired. You've got an action step. No more hesitation. We are going to implement in the next 24 hours. And that, my friends, is how we get out there and own it every meal, every workout, every day. I'll see you on the next episode. Hey, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. And thanks for hanging out after the episode to chat a little bit more with the PhD here. I mentioned at the beginning that this is the last week. These are the last few days for Million Pound Mission Boot Camp registration. Boot Camp launches next Monday, January 7th, 2018. Registration is open through this Thursday. All right, you go to millionpoundmission.com, get all the info. This boot camp is unlike anything else. You heard Chris talk about accountability today in the show, and we are heavy on accountability. I'm going to assign you 2 accountability buddies, accountability coaches, and they are going to keep you accountable and supported every step of the way. And we have our unique nutrition plans. We've got our online workouts. We've got weekly homework that we're going to dive into. We've got weekly group chats where I'm going to get on the Zoom channel with you and a small group of your fellow boot campers and talk about the homework assignments each week. It's just off the charts. Really, really good. If you want to add a ton of fuel to your transformation fire, take a good hard look at the Million Pound Mission Bootcamp. Again, registration closes this Thursday. Head on over to millionpoundmission.com and check it out.